and remain in line. We've also been made aware that in the course of the last hour, multiple bomb threats have been called into polling locations and municipal buildings across Pennsylvania. My team and I have been in direct communication with Pennsylvania State Police Colonel Christopher Paris, who is coordinating with local and federal law enforcement as well as PEMA. State and local law enforcement, along with the FBI, are investigating these threats, and thus far there is no credible threat to the public. Notwithstanding that, today in Pennsylvania, the birthplace of our democracy, millions of legal, eligible voters made their voices heard in this election. Once again, voters across the Commonwealth were able to cast their ballots safely and securely in this election, as in past elections as well. Let me remind every Pennsylvania voter, our elections are run at the local level by Republican and Democratic clerks of elections and volunteers. They are our neighbors, they're our coworkers, they're our friends, ordinary Americans doing their part, making our democracy work. As they prepared to administer this presidential election and run what was a very smooth election day, they've been assisted by the women and men of the Pennsylvania Department of State, led by Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, who you'll hear from in a moment. They've worked tirelessly to help our partners in all 67 counties administer a free and fair election. Earlier today, Lieutenant Governor Davis and I spent an hour with about 100 dedicated employees from the Department of State, the Department of General Services, the Pennsylvania State Police, PEMA, and the Office of Administration. These are public servants who are monitoring our IT systems, making sure everything works. Public servants engaging with and assisting our county partners. Public servants who are answering questions from the media. I want you to know I was really struck by their professionalism, their dedication to service, and their unwavering commitment to our democracy. I am so proud of them, and I know that they take great pride in their important work. And so on behalf of a grateful Commonwealth, I say thank you. Now, the most polls are closed. Local election officials across the Commonwealth, along with thousands of trained volunteers, have begun counting the votes here in Pennsylvania. As these votes are counted, they will be reported to the Department of State, and we will post live results at the website at electionreturns.pa.gov. I want to reassure Pennsylvania and all the folks across the country who are paying attention to our Commonwealth that every legal, eligible vote will be counted accurately and that the will of the people will be respected. I also want to respectfully ask all Pennsylvanians and Americans and those in the media who are interested in these election results to be patient. Counting millions of votes accurately, it takes some time. Our goal is to get it right. How quickly news organizations call our elections, for president on down to state legislature, always depend on how close these races are. The closer they are, the longer it takes to know who won, because we will always make sure that every legal, eligible vote is counted accurately. I also want to reassure Pennsylvanians that our county partners know how to process and count votes accurately. Secretary Schmidt has spent the last year visiting all 67 counties and meeting with election staff all across Pennsylvania. His great team at the Department of State has been working with our county partners over the last 2 years to train election clerks all across Pennsylvania and ensure that they are ready to administer elections freely and fairly. All 67 counties are now prepared and ready to process and count ballots securely and accurately. I've been asked many times over the last several months what improvements have been made since the last presidential election here in Pennsylvania. Let me walk you through a few of the differences. First, all 67 counties now have far more experience handling and processing mail ballots. Since 2020, our election partners have successfully administered 8 elections that saw a large percentage of votes cast by mail. Second, county officials have purchased new equipment that allow them to process votes more quickly. And thanks to Act 88, which became law in 2022, counties are now mandated to count votes continuously through the night until they've completed the task. And third, in 2020, about 2.5 million Pennsylvanians voted by mail, which meant 2.5 million mail ballots had to be processed and counted. This year, it appears that the final number of mail ballots needing to be processed and counted will be closer to 2 million. That's not a reflection on the energy around the presidential race or any race in Pennsylvania, or a reflection of Pennsylvanians' interest in voting. Rather, it is a reflection of how people chose to vote, and it seems that more people showed up at the polls in person today than in 2020. As county officials now work diligently to count every ballot, I want to thank every Pennsylvania voter who voted by mail or showed up at the polls to exercise their right to vote, regardless of their preferred candidate. I want to applaud the nonpartisan election administrators who are diligently serving our Commonwealth and our country by doing this critically important work. And I want to share Pennsylvanians' immense gratitude to the state, local, and federal law enforcement officials and first responders who continue to work together even right now to ensure voters are able to cast their votes safely. As the votes are counted, I urge everyone to be patient, to avoid spreading or repeating any mis or disinformation, and to rely on trusted sources of election information like the Department of State's Election Returns website. Every legal, eligible vote will be counted and counted accurately, and the will of the people here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will be respected. I want to thank Secretary Al Schmidt and his terrific team at the Department of State for their important and meaningful and extraordinary work. And with that, I'd like to welcome Secretary Al Schmidt to say a few words.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Governor, and thank you all for being here on this important day. I'm pleased to report that Pennsylvania has once again held a free, fair, safe, and secure election day. Today's success is a testament to the dedication and preparation of our county election officials who I've met during my 67 county visits in the past year. I want to express my thanks to those hundreds of county election officials and the approximately 45,000 poll workers who made democracy happen today in the Commonwealth. Because of them, Pennsylvanians were able to vote at 9,153 polling places across our 67 counties. In addition to what the governor mentioned a moment ago, as in every election, a few Pennsylvania counties reported isolated, localized issues at the precinct level. Those counties worked quickly to address those issues. The only countywide issue that we encountered today was in Cambria County, where the court took appropriate action to extend voting hours to 10 p.m. tonight so that all voters can have the opportunity to cast their vote. In Luzerne County, at a polling place in Laughlin Borough, voting hours were extended until 9:30 tonight because of the precinct opening late this morning. To the voters at these locations, I remind you that if you're in line before 8 p.m., you could stay in line and you'd be able to vote. Every election day sees isolated issues, even when county election officials work diligently in advance, as they did this past year. The department is confident that all counties took the necessary steps to ensure voters who wanted to cast a ballot today could do so. We know many voters encountered lines at the polling places today, and we thank them for their patience as poll workers who are their neighbors work hard so that they could cast their vote. Although we won't have in-person turnout numbers tonight in total, reports from election workers on the ground indicate that polling places were very busy, even for a presidential election year. With a successful general election under their belts, election workers in all 67 counties now undertake the task of counting votes. I'd like to echo what the governor said. Please be patient. This work takes time. Accuracy and integrity are the priority. It's important to remember that counties could not begin even processing and opening the millions of returned mail ballots until 7 a.m. today, and that the last of them would have been received just a little bit ago until 8 p.m. You can track the latest unofficial results as counties submit them on the Pennsylvania Department of State's website, electionreturns.pa.gov. Because voting continues in Cambria County and Laughlin Borough and Luzerne County, I'll return at 10 p.m. to provide an update and to answer whatever questions you might have.